frankly, when I saw the first data, I just panicked.
Hello everyone, and welcome to What's, the second episode of the series, A Night with the Space Nobelists. I am Tommi Tenkanen, and I am the host of this series. In today's episode, we have Professor Didier Queloz as our honored guest. Professor Queloz is currently working as a professor at the University of Cambridge in the UK, and he is also a fellow of Trinity College. He received the 2019 Nobel Prize in Physics, together with his doctoral advisor Michel Mayor, for the discovery of the first exoplanet. Hello, Professor Queloz. It is a great pleasure and honor to have you with us today in A Night with the Space Nobelists YouTube series. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Right. So you received your Nobel Prize for discovering the first exoplanet orbiting a solar-type star. Can you tell us what exactly are exoplanets?
Well, it's a planet, but it's a planet orbiting a star that is different from the sun. So it's simply a way to specify the planet being different from the planet of the solar system.
Right. And how did it feel to make such a discovery?
Well, it came as a kind of surprise. Well, the idea that you have planet under the star is something that was kind of accepted, but the surprise came by the fact that the first planet we found, and not only the first one, but the first series of planets that was detected, they are awkward compared to the one we have in the solar system, because they are as big as Jupiter, our giant planet, but they're all located very, very close to the stars. They are what we call hot Jupiter, because they're so close that the temperature of the atmosphere of this planet is above 1,000 degrees. And they were really, nobody had any idea that such a planet could exist. So that really was a big surprise. And because it was a big surprise, it was very intense, and I could say scary times, because most of the people, they essentially didn't believe us.
Were you surprised? Did you believe yourself at first?
Well, frankly, when I saw the first data, I just panicked because I thought something was wrong, but not wrong in terms of physically wrong. I think something was really wrong with the equipment, and something was very wrong with the way you would just derive the data. I thought there were a mistake somewhere, and because it didn't make any sense, and nobody could think about that kind of object. And after battling weeks and months with the data, I had to admit defeat in a way that I could not demonstrate that something was wrong. And there is a point that there is a kind of a twist in your mind when you reach that level, when anything you believe that you're doing is right, and you still have something which is strange with the data. You have to accept that there may be something strange itself with the nature of the data. And in that case, I came up with this crazy idea that it must be a planet orbiting that star. And then I communicated that to my PhD supervisor. I was so scared to do that early on. I took a long time. He was not there. He was away in sabbatical, so I didn't know what was going on. That's kind of a emotion I was battling against. And then, of course, he didn't believe me, but it was nice. He said, yeah, maybe, but he didn't believe it either, because it was so awkward. And it took him also time to understand all what I've done and how to explain all this. And then when we made the announcement, the same happened. I think most of the people, they were very skeptical, and they had good reason to do so. So, this, because it was so surprising. In physics, there are, in a way, two categories of discoveries, or main discoveries. The one you would expect, because there is a theoretical background, like the gravitational waves, and you expect them, and then one day you detect them, and then it's hallelujah, yeah, fine, we find it, this is exactly what we expect, and then everybody is happy because it demonstrates that a kind of a framework, a theoretical framework that was assembled, in that case of the gravitational waves, by Einstein 100 years ago, was fine. But there's also discovery where you have a theoretical framework, and you expect something, it never happens, or it doesn't happen the way you think. And then it's also a kind of a discovery, but it's a bit more embarrassing discovery, because this is bringing you a complete new knowledge that nobody has thought about. And this is another category of discovery. And these are the most difficult ones, because this is the one when you have the most community against you, because nobody's expecting it as well. And it takes time. A lot of discussions, demonstrations, other work demonstrating you're wrong, and so on, that for the community to build up a confident level until they are convinced, similarly, that you have been battling with your data, that it is indeed planets that have been found, and that's what we have experienced. And frankly, it took me about 10 years to really value and enjoy all this, because the early days were not very nice, because when you have the whole community against you, I can tell you it's not a very nice position to be, especially when you are a young scientist.
So how did that feel?
Very bad, I can tell you. It was very scary, and I decided to move ahead. And I was aware that was just a massive discovery. Essentially, it was the biggest discovery ever. And as a young scientist, you have to admit that you make the best of your work before even starting your career. So that kind of an awkward situation. But I decided to move ahead, and I was fortunate to be starting a new field, and then doing plenty of other fun stuff. And then I survived in a way. And I know I'm really enjoying fully, and I realized what this field is doing, which is keep surprising results.
How does one find exoplanets? How does it work?
Yeah, well, I think what we've done is it's something simple in a way. We have been using what's called Newton's law. If you have a planet orbiting a star, the star is moving a little bit because the whole system is orbiting a point, which is a fiducial point, which is called the center of gravity of the whole system. So for the star, it's a tiny motion, and it means there is a tiny change of velocity according to the orbital motion of the star. And that's what we've been doing. So in a way, you don't really see the planet, you're observing the star, and you look at something on the star that would tell you there is an orbiting planet. And essentially, you look for a change of what's called radial velocity of the star. So the challenge here is this motion is very tiny, and it requires a kind of a sophisticated equipment and also sophisticated data analysis techniques to do so. And it took to the community a long time to reach that level, because the idea to look for planet that way is very ancient. I mean, from the beginning of the beginning of the spectroscopy, when people started to deal with the measurements of the speed of stars, that's at least 100 years old. They thought that, okay, that could be a way to find planet. But because of the small motion, I remind you, Jupiter is 1,000 times less massive than the sun. So it's really a tiny bit that, of course, it doesn't shake very much, the sun. So the motion is very tiny, and that's very difficult to find. And we essentially had to wait until the end of the last century to reach the capability to achieve this discovery. And that's what we're doing. There's another technique which is very famous right now, which is not using the motion of the star. We're just waiting for the planet to just go in front of the star. So it's very unlikely, because you need the planetary orbit to be aligned between you and the star. But if you are lucky enough, that happen, depending on the distance of the planet, is 1% chance, 10% chance, or less than 1% chance, then you create what's called a transit, which is a tiny change into the light from the stars. And that is a way that has been intensively used by space mission. One of them is a Kepler satellite, and Kepler satellite was doing that. So these are essentially the two main techniques. So you see, we're not seeing the planet. There are a little bit, there's few planet has been directly seen, because the technology is not really ready to do that. It's very difficult. But there are surely a new technology of equipment on the biggest telescope in the world right now being developed that will be able to do that in the future. So we've used the kind of indirect technique by looking at the star or the effect of the planet on the star to detect the planet and to learn about the mass and the size and the periods. We can learn about a lot of stuff this way. But later we will have what's called proper picture of planet, and that is happening.
Yeah, and I have understood that we have gone a long way, because by now almost 5,000 exoplanets have been found.
Yeah, the number doesn't matter anymore because we know that essentially there is a planet on every star, and we've learned that. That was a big surprise. There is plenty of planets everywhere. So planetary formation is part of the process when you form a star. But what was really a surprise is most of these planets are different from the planet of the solar system. So if you want to have one learning lesson, lessons learned from what has been done so far, is most of the planet, they are very close to the stars, much closer to the orbit or own orbit of Mercury, the planet Mercury. And that was not expected at all. And the vast majority of the stars have planets of that kind. Some are very small, like the Earth, but they're still roasted. They're very close. They're way too close, I think, to be interesting for life. And that was interesting because it broke this kind of paradigm that we all had before, that all the planetary systems should be alike or own planetary systems. And they still, possibility that a fraction of the star do have planet like our own, but we can already exclude that it is the majority right now. So that was the interesting finding. So the number doesn't matter, because if you have the right equipment, you're pointing to a star, you find the planet right now. So the question is more, what are these planets? And how can we find planet that will be more like our own planet, which is more difficult and require a new kind of technology and equipment to be used.
So would you say that some of these planets could harbor life? Would that be possible?
Well, the possibility can certainly be true. Who knows? We know that some of these planets are clearly rocky, so that's seen as one of the minimum conditions of rocky planet there. But that's all what we know. So we have plenty of rocky planets in the solar system that doesn't have life. Mercury, Venus, and Mars, we have not found any life. So there is way more that is needed to find out there is life. And that would be for the next generations really of equipment to find out. Can we detect water? Can we detect atmosphere? Can we detect some molecules in the atmosphere telling us there is interesting geophysical process that we understand that maybe volcanic activity is essential for life? Can we find this on other planet? All these elements, I think, we will need to learn. And that is on the to-do list for the next 20 to 50 years. And we are already designing or thinking or blueprinting equipment, space missions of the future to address these fascinating questions. And can we really remotely detect life on other planet?
You received your Nobel Prize in 2019. Where were you when you first heard you were awarded a Nobel Prize?
Well, that's easy. I was in Cambridge because I had a meeting in Cambridge, but I was not supposed to be in Cambridge because I was in sabbatical, actually in US, in MIT. But I had to move back to Cambridge for 2 weeks because of a meeting with other colleagues. And that's when I was there. So it was a time when my wife was in MIT and my kids were in Geneva, when in England, were everywhere. So the family was absolutely spread. And one of my sons was in India. So that was kind of a very interesting situation because nobody got the news at the same time. And I missed the announcement. They could not reach me because when I do a meeting, usually I have switched off my phone. I didn't pay attention. That was the day of the Nobel Prize. I know there is a week, of course, but I was so focused for my meeting and I was not paying attention. And at the end, I switched on my phone because I was expecting news from the university because I was working on a contract that could not really go through the systems. And I was expecting a feedback of the contract. And I received an email from the admin from the university and I answer and I say, yeah, I was expecting this about the contract. And they said, oh, this is the PR office. And I said, what the PR office? What are you calling me? And they said, are you aware that you got a Nobel Prize? That's how I learned it. And I say, you must be kidding. I was quite on the shock. I said, "Are you sure? Are you really sure?" And I was so convincing when I asked them, "Are you really sure?" They said, "Oh, let me double check." They said, "Yeah, yes, we see your name and your face. We can tell you this is you. This is really you." And then that was completely madness.
Yeah, I can imagine. You shared your Nobel Prize with your PhD supervisor. What would you say? What is the role of collaboration in doing research? How important it is?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking. Actually, not much people ask me that. So that's pretty good.
I wonder why. Yeah. Thank you.
There is something that I think was part of the success, what we achieved with Michel, is I used to call it the crazy creativity of the youngster with the wise attitude of the more experienced and senior scientists. That's really what it is. I think I brought, and that's what's happening is most of the big discoveries, and people are doing the big discovery at the time when they're very young. And there is no mystery for that, because I see it right now. I know a lot of stuff. Maybe I'm wise, but I don't think I am as creative I was when I was younger. And I think, and I really realized what I've done at that time. My creativity was really immense at that time, and essentially put together a massive piece of software and a lot of ideas to really reach what we wanted. And I had this kind of attitude, looking at the data analysis, that had no boundaries. And having a planet even so awkward that 51 peg B, I could do that because I was crazy. I was a crazy younger. Now, if you imagine that somebody more experienced or maybe not as involved than me would have done the observations, maybe they would have just say, okay, let's think about that later, and let's reobserve later on, and trying to just work it through. Eventually, they would have found out, but maybe too late, and some of the team would have announced a planet before. So I think this kind of mixing of this energy of the young with the wise attitude of the old man. Well, it was not very old. It was 55. It was my age. I mean, at the time of discovery, Michel had this age. Was a success story, and that is why I think we did what we did.
And how did you end up studying exoplanets? Out of all possibilities.
I didn't end up studying exoplanet. I was not supposed to study exoplanet at all. Just I had the privilege to decide what I would do and to make the field. So in a way, I built the boat I've been using to conquest the world. But I built the boat myself because there were no boat before. So it was not a choice. I just fall on the trap. It was just by mistake, if you want. I just fall on the trap. But once you do that, of course you don't want to stop, because this is so fascinating. So it came as a surprise, but the surprise was so exciting, was so fabulous. Then of course I kept doing that, and I keep doing it because it's just an amazing field.
Did you ever consider doing something else?
Well, when I did the physics early on, I decided to become a physicist because I was curious, and I thought physics would be kind of a generic way to approach nature. I could have done many different kind of research. I think I was very interested about high energy physics early on, and I moved to astrophysics because I thought maybe telescope on the top of mountains is beautiful. So there's kind of a romantic idea here that I liked, but I kind of picked Michel Mayor as a PhD supervisor because I really enjoyed the man, the way he was thinking, and I thought I could work with him. So it's nothing really like, some people, they have a vision, they will become astronomers. I never had this. I just had a vision that my place on this world would be to become a scientist, because that's what I am, I think. And I still feel the same curiosity that it's never enough that I had when I was 20 years old and I started to study physics. So I think it has no change, and I'm curious about anything, about getting knowledge, and that's it. This is what I am. That's who I am built.
And is that what you would say to a young student who wanted to do research, either on astrophysics or something else? Or what is it that you would say to them? Do you have any tips?
My advice is always the same. I think we should express our own curiosity without limit, whatever you do, and doesn't need to be physics or mathematics. You could do anything. You can be fascinating by sociology, by psychology, by expressing yourself into the art. That's what we are. We are an emotional machine, and that's the emotion which is pushing us to be extremely creative. Whether you express it or not, you're still an emotional machine. And I think this is really, really important to listen to what you want. And when you're young and you want to do something, you should just do it. And there is something we should really not be afraid of is failing, because my life is full of failures. So I fail many times. Most of the time I'm doing something, I don't reach what I want. I'm failing all the time. You cannot imagine how much you do something, you ask money, you do that, you want to do that, and it doesn't work out. It's not because you have a Nobel Prize that you kind of perfect scientist. It's all wrong. I mean, we're making mistakes, we're failings, and that's fine. So I keep trying to explain and to train my students into the art of failing. So if you know how to fail, you're going to become a good scientist.
So next I would like to ask you two questions our audience has suggested to us. The first question being, is it ever going to be possible to move to another planet? And what would it take?
Well, in the solar systems, we can definitely travel. And we've done that already. We are the first living creature on Earth that build the capability to live in a way from our own environment, which is the Earth. So certainly there is way to travel. Now, whether we won't settle, it's another story, because we're not designed in terms of where we build up to live to any other places than on Earth. So that's really where we are designed to build. So going to live on Mars, on Moon, or whatever places, it will be extremely difficult because of just the fact it's not places we can just live.
Well, in fact, the second question is very much related to that, because it is there planet B?
Well, I think this question of planet B always come, and I think because of this global warming and stuff. And I think everybody, all the scientists are telling the same story. I think we are built to sit on this planet. We're not designed to do anything else. Well, the fact we can travel doesn't mean that we should destroy a house to go to another house, because this is the house for which we build on. Now, traveling to other stars is facing a couple of physical limitations. Well, the first one is just as very far. You cannot imagine how far are the stars, and clearly this is beyond human life to travel to other stars. Whether you can send probes, something to other stars, yes, it's a matter of time. If you can wait millions of years, you can certainly do so. Whether it has any meaning to do that, and you can ask yourself. The practical limitations is the energy you need to just accelerate if you're going to go faster is just not available. So we have no means right now to travel to other stars. There is no mean to escape from on Earth. So all this debate about planet A, B, C, and I think to me it's just nonsense. And I always jump on my seat when I hearing some famous and CEO of companies or space companies that is keep telling, I think we should leave this on planet in case something happened. I think this is just nonsense, and we should stop listening to these people. I mean, they certainly know how to do good rockets, but it doesn't mean that what they're saying has any meaning. So we should be really careful about this idea, and we should really acknowledge that we are built on Earth, we have been evolving on Earth, and we're designed to stay on Earth. Whether we can still travel time to time, it's not the questions. We're still built to stay on Earth and to be on Earth.
Thank you very much, Professor Queloz, for this great, really interesting interview. It was a real pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you.
This was the second episode in the series A Night with the Space Nobelists. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you and see you next time.